Imagine a world without clocks, a world without your phone, a world 5,000 years in the past. It sounds like a long time ago, right? But this world was real. It was vibrant. It was powerful. We're talking about ancient Egypt. This wasn't just any place on the map. It was a civilization that would change history forever. It left behind wonders that still blow our minds today. It all started in one very special place, a long stretch of green in the middle of a vast golden desert. It was a world built not on sand, but on water. And that water was everything. The heart of this ancient kingdom was a river, the mighty Nile. The Nile wasn't just a river, it was the source of all life, the ultimate lifeline. Every single year, like clockwork, it would swell and overflow its banks. This wasn't a disaster, it was a gift. When the waters pulled back, they left a layer of rich, dark silt. That black soil was a miracle, perfect natural fertilizer, turning desert into a farmer's dream. The annual flood created the rhythm of Egyptian life. It dictated when they planted. It dictated when they harvested. It dictated when they worked on massive projects. Life was a dance between fertile black and barren red. So, what was it like to actually live in this ancient world? Let's zoom in from the big picture and look at the people. Most Egyptians weren't pharaohs or high priests, they were farmers, families living a life that was both simple and incredibly tough. Their homes weren't palaces. Practical houses made from bricks of mud and straw, baked hard in the hot sun. Flat roofs where families could sleep on hot nights to catch a cool breeze. Inside, woven mats, clay pots for storing food, and a small hearth for cooking. Daily life revolved around work and family. From sunrise to sunset, men and women worked side by side in the fields. Simple wooden plows pulled by oxen prepared the soil. They planted wheat and barley. Those became the staples. Bread and beer. Beer. Thick, nutritious, safer than plain water. Children chased birds from crops and helped grind grain into flour. They also played with carved wooden toys and games in the village. Clothing. Stay cool. Linen cloth from flax along the Nile. Men in simple kilts, women in straight, strapped dresses. Makeup, black coal around the eyes, jewelry of beads, shells, and stones. Towns buzzed with activity, carpenters, potters, weavers, metalworkers. Boats moved up and down the Nile with goods and messages. Life, hard work, community, ritual, and deep connection to the land. It was tough but rich in its own way. Everything they had, built and believed in was tied to the pulse of the river. Without the Nile, no ancient Egypt as we know it. At the very top of this entire society was one figure with absolute power, the pharaoh. This wasn't just a king or an emperor. To the Egyptian people, the pharaoh was a living god, a divine being who walked the earth. He was the bridge between the world of humans and the world of the gods. His job was to maintain Ma'at, the cosmic order, harmony, and justice. If the Nile flooded properly and harvests were good, he was doing his job. If not, the gods were displeased. That's a lot of pressure. The pharaoh owned all the land in Egypt. He was the commander-in-chief of the army. He was the high priest of every temple. His word was law. To manage a vast kingdom, he relied on officials, viziers, and scribes. These were the educated elite who could read and write hieroglyphs. They collected taxes, usually grain, and managed food storage. They organized massive state labor projects, building temples, building the pyramids. The pharaoh was the ultimate CEO of Egypt, Inc. As a divine ruler, his life was steeped in ceremony and ritual. He led the most important religious festivals. He made offerings to the gods for all his people. Temples weren't just worship sites, they were economic powerhouses. These were earthly homes for the gods. Only the pharaoh and high priests entered the most sacred spaces. This belief shaped society, from vizier to humble farmer. People worked as a religious duty. He was more than a leader, he was the center of their universe. When you think of ancient Egypt, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's the Great Pyramids. Massive, mysterious structures, symbols of power and ambition. But what were they for? They believed death was a transition to an eternal existence. To make that journey, a body had to be preserved, and the spirit needed a safe, well-stocked home for eternity. The pyramid was the ultimate eternal home. These weren't just tombs, they were resurrection machines. Its shape helped the pharaoh's spirit ascend to join the gods, especially Ra. They stood on the west bank, the realm of the dead. Inside, passages leading to chambers protecting the mummy and treasures, furniture, food, jewelry, for a lavish afterlife. So how did they build these things? Forget aliens and magic. They were built with human ingenuity and hard work. The builders weren't slaves, they were skilled Egyptian laborers. Many worked during inundation when fields were underwater. Workers were paid with food, beer, clothing and housing. They lived in organized workers' villages. Archaeologists found their bakeries, homes, and tombs, respected craftsmen. They quarried massive limestone blocks, dragged them across desert on sleds, hauled them up earthen ramps. It took tight organization and mathematical precision, decades of effort by tens of thousands. The spiritual world of the ancient Egyptians was as rich and complex as their society. They didn't believe in just one god, they worshipped a vast pantheon. Gods could be human, animal, or a hybrid of both. Ra, the sun god sailing across the sky. Osiris, lord of the afterlife, who judged souls. Isis, magic, motherhood, the protector. Religion was woven into daily life. At home, people wore amulets, said prayers, and made small offerings. The gods were everywhere, in the river's flow, the heat of the sun, the breath of the wind. Their belief's defining feature was the afterlife. Death was a dangerous journey with challenges. To help, they created the Book of the Dead, spells and prayers on papyrus placed in tombs. These scrolls guided the soul. Final test: heart versus the feather of Ma'at. If lighter, the soul reached paradise. If heavier, Ammit devoured it, the end of the soul. These beliefs provided a moral compass, a motive to live honorably. Not just stories, a roadmap for living, and a promise beyond. A universe of gods that shaped every day and every destiny. It starts and ends with balance, gratitude, and awe. Built magnificent temples and performed daily rituals to keep the world in harmony. Faith lived in both the grand and the humble. And under those stars, they imagined eternity. How do we know so much about a world that existed 5,000 years ago? The answer is written on the walls. They were brilliant artists and record keepers. They developed one of the world's most beautiful writing systems, hieroglyphs. Not an alphabet like ours, but hundreds of picture signs for sounds, objects, and ideas. Carving was a slow, sacred art. Hieroglyphs recorded the most important texts, meant to last for eternity. For daily life, scribes used a cursive script called hieratic. They made papyrus, slice strips, crosslay, press, and dry into durable sheets. With a reed brush and ink, scribes wrote swiftly and efficiently. Papyrus scrolls are time capsules of their world. Egyptian art kept a unique, consistent style for thousands of years. The rules were strict: heads and legs in profile, eye and torso facing forward. Not because they couldn't draw realistically, but to show the body at its most complete. Size signaled importance. Pharaohs and gods larger than others. Art had a magical purpose. Scenes were meant to come alive for the dead. A painted loaf could become real sustenance for the spirit. A statue could be a vessel for the soul. Art connected, living and dead, earthly and divine. A way to ensure that life, in all its vibrancy, would continue forever. Written in stone and color, their stories endure. 5,000 years is a long, long time. Empires rise and fall, cities turn to dust. But ancient Egypt endures. It captures our imagination like no other. Pyramids standing tall against the sky. The golden face of a pharaoh, not just stones and artifacts. A legacy of a people. Brilliant engineers, dedicated believers, masterful artists. They organized society and harnessed nature, built for eternity. They laid the groundwork for what came after: mathematics, medicine, surgery, a 365-day calendar based on the sun and the stars, organized government, their art, their architecture, influencing Greeks and Romans. Perhaps their greatest legacy is the human story. Archaeologists uncover more clues. Beyond the gods, beyond the gold. Workers who cut the stones, letters from a farmer about taxes, children's toys, well-worn sandals, small details that close the gap of time. People lived in its shadow, guided by the rhythm of the Nile. Deep faith in eternity. Their story is still speaking to us. It invites us to keep digging, keep learning, keep wondering. Their world is gone. Their wonder is forever. Water gave them a foundation. From there they reached for the stars. The river was their highway, grocery store, and spiritual guide. It fed a growing population, and freed the time to build an empire. A god on earth to keep order in a cosmic dance. A moral map for life. Astarte, and a passport to eternity. Egypt, 5,000 years ago, born of a river, shaped by belief, and built by the hands of its people, a civilization that turned sand and sunlight into eternity. And its story still flows. If you felt the pull of the river, there's so much more to explore. Thanks for watching.